except for the music I create, which is great, but most people actually are much more interested in the person's personality than the music they're creating in the first place, which is actually only partially true for the jazz industry. It's true for almost every industry except for jazz, and then it's like half true for the jazz world. People are much more interested in the music in the jazz world than they are in like the pop world, for example. In the pop world, they're only interested in the person, and the music is just a means to get it to be able to obsess over a person. And that's the reason that Instagram can exist, a platform that is the main marketing platform for the biggest musicians in the world, yet has no music on it. It's just photos. I mean, it's also video clips and shit. You can put music on video clips, but
because the person is the product.
Yeah, the person is the product, and the music is like the marketing for the person.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, a lot of things about this world are not what they seem to be when you really dive into them. That's one of the things about successful entrepreneurs that I've met too. They all really, really think about the nature of things, because those things tend to be different than what they seem to be. And then when you can get in touch with the nature of what they actually are, like underneath the surface, then you can pull the strings and like be successful in one thing or another by doing the right things when everybody else is doing the wrong things. Like that's what Halsey did. You know, she made her personality and aligned herself immediately in the centerpiece of the three most prevalent underground movements that were happening, which were biracial, bisexual, and bipolar, and made herself a thing that resonates within that entire subculture, and then turned into the thing that she is now, which is purely unique because only she was able to do that to that extent. And there are other subcultures and other things that people are able to do to such a major extent of relation to those subcultures. And in jazz, that's what people do too. And you don't know what the subcultures are going to be. Like Kamasi Washington happens to be in line with a subculture, and also then curated himself. Well, he was curated by the guy, the fuck is his name? Brilliant manager, entrepreneur, black dude, can't remember his name. It'll come to me. Troy Carter. Troy Carter was managing Kamasi, but was also managing Lady Gaga. And he told Kamasi, I mean, I don't know exactly what he told Kamasi, but I know that after he started managing Kamasi, I never saw him out of his wardrobe, out of the dashiki like thing.
Yeah.
And he like made the right moves as far as his image goes to be that centerpiece of culture the culture was looking for, until he was selling out Blue Note bigger than more like he grew past Blue Note very, very quickly, which is actually pretty easy to do if you're actually culturally relevant, because most jazz musicians are not in the slightest bit culturally relevant in the first place. Now they were when jazz was culturally relevant.
Yeah.
So the thing to, if you want a career in jazz, the thing to think about at this level, it's how do I be culturally relevant, which is a shitty thing to think about because culture is a wasteland. Like most people are into the most dumb things, but you have to think about how to relate to those things to some extent. And you don't have to do it by being dumb. You do it by incorporating the tastes of people who normally listen to dumb things, and then bringing that into your art, which has to be genuine art. Because if it's not genuine art and you're creating it for a living, it's like you really should do a different career. Like you should only be doing this career if you actually are creating something that's from your heart and your soul. So cultural relevance is here, but even beneath cultural relevance and what creates cultural relevance is what do people want. And that's what I thought about with the whiskey thing. Which the whiskey thing was also just a means to an end. We did 3 nights, and it was at my buddy's studio that I ended up getting a room in, and now so I have a studio there too now. but it was 3 nights, and Glenfiddich sponsored it. They gave us $6,000 to do this event and do video and audio recording of the whole thing, and have them give their Glenfiddich to the audience. And then a chocolate company, Cacao Atlanta Chocolate Company, who's owned by a woman who I got engaged to thereafter, but then broke up with them. Then we fell apart. But that we did the combination of chocolate and whiskey. The chocolate company didn't give any money, just product. The whiskey company gave product and money, and then my financer put in more money so that we could give people other free drinks and also do a whole video multi-camera shoot. And that's the thing that turned into what I was calling Polyrhythmic at the time, and had some videos that went kind of viral because they were great videos. But the reason that they went kind of viral, like jazz viral, like 100,000 views, which is actually really relevant for jazz. If you can get 100,000 views on something, then most of the world, like the jazz musicians, know about you. It's kind of funny, like 100,000 organic views. I would go to any, and it was several videos that got that, but it was, I would go to any jam session after that, and people knew about Polyrhythmic, like anywhere in the country at the very least, but oftentimes overseas. But that was all to get the video, which was culturally relevant, partially because of Mike Mitchell, who's the drummer that I got on the project. And it was also impressive because of Hadrian Farad, who's not culturally relevant in any way, but is the best in the world at his... yeah, he's the best in the world at his style of bass playing. So between Mike, and who's also one of the best in the world at what he does on drums, but there's just, like, for Hadrian, there's like nobody else who actually does that at all. Like there's Mike is at the top tier and competing with a few other people. Hadrian is like picked his thing and only does that thing, and therefore like the next person who can do that as well is like down here. So the combination of the two of them, of Mike's relevancy and virtuosity, and then also Hadrian's epic virtuosity, made it like... And then my compositions, because my compositions were relatively simple chord progressions, so people could understand them, but it was also a complex rhythmic thing that allowed Mike to do some crazy shit over, and then had an undertone of a culturally relevant rhythmic idea, which is the elongated backbeat, which was kind of inspired by the pop music that I was listening to at the time, because we were touring with The Weeknd. I was with Halsey at the time. We were touring with The Weeknd. So that's why those videos were able to be successful. But at the same time, I didn't make any money off those shows at all. Like, I've made almost no money off of anything that I've done that has been good for my career ever. Like, the things that I've made money off of are when your career does really well and you have something peripheral that then like pays a lot because your career is doing really well. Like a private event that pays $5,000